Hello everybody out there in YouTube land once again. Yes, your eyes and ears do not deceive you. I am in fact CompDude512, and this is in fact what you see right before your eyes, an exit sign video. More specifically, a Dual-Lite exit sign video. Now before we get started, I would like to remind everybody that this is not a how-to video. If you're looking for a how-to video, then you should look for another video. This will be a feature video. Of course, we'll go over a little bit of history, and we'll talk about how we got here. We get here by going all the way back to 1987, when Dual-Lite introduced the Excalibur cast aluminum exit sign. And if you look at it, you might just see a few similarities to the script or the font on the Curvista. A few years later, the Excalibur got a redesign, and a couple years after that, back in 1999, one of my favorite cast aluminum exit signs of all time, the Dual-Lite Liteforms LC debuted. And it met an untimely demise when the Duramax by Prescolite was introduced. Well, what does Prescolite have to do with anything? There was a merger in 2002 when Hubble Lighting acquired Lighting Corporation of America. And since the Duramax was brand new, one cast aluminum exit sign had to go, and unfortunately, it was the Liteforms LC. So only after a few years in existence, the Liteforms LC was gone, and the Duramax became the Sempra when it transferred over to the Dual-Lite lineup. So if you look at this sign, you'll see a lot of similarities to the Liteforms LC. That's because after about 22 years of being gone, this really awesome script is back on a Dual-Lite cast aluminum exit sign, and I'm very excited because it is one of my favorite exit sign scripts of all time. And when we open this up, the first thing that we see is some really awesome promotional material for the Curvista. This can be found on Dual-Lite's website, but really, I'm glad to have a paper copy of this thing because there's a really cool feature of this brochure that doesn't come across on the digital PDF version that's really substantial in this one. Of course, you open it up and you look at all the spec sets of the Curvista. So we'll get to the fun part of what makes this brochure awesome. This right here, what you're seeing, this spread in this brochure, is actually the exact same size as a Curvista exit sign. And if I were to take that out of the box and overlay that onto this page, you would see that. If you want to see this brochure for yourself, you can go onto Dual-Lite's website, the product page for the Curvista, and there is a link to this same brochure that you can view digitally. This sell sheet is also available on Dual-Lite's website. As far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure that's the link underneath the brochure. I want to thank my friends at Current and Dual-Lite for sending this stuff along, because I look at the digital stuff. I don't know if you guys who are exit sign fans do that as well, but it's so awesome to actually have the printed copies of this stuff in your hand. And to all my favorite friends out there who knows my little inside joke, Lights actually makes products? You know, it is kind of interesting, you know, to look at these two side by side with the discontinued overlay over them, because Dual-Lite is the only consistent brand, in my opinion, out there making life safety products right now. Lights is definitely a little bit disjointed right now, because what is their identity? I don't know. Are they a value brand? Are they their own thing? What are they? I wish somebody would tell me. And then right here next to that, with the Lithonia Solo, At the beginning of the year, Lithonia went on a tear, and they were renaming a lot of their products, And many of their legacy products now have different names, which is kind of interesting if you ask me. So if you open your box for your Curvista, this is everything that you're going to find. Of course, you're going to get an exit sign. You'll get this canopy and the canopy mounting plate. And what's really awesome about that canopy is it follows the shape and form of the Curvista very, very well. And I think this design is just excellent because Dual-Lite's thought of everything. Nothing is worse inside of an exit sign than unsightly wires that clog up your diffuser, that cause the light distribution to be uneven. And for the first time on any Dual-Lite product, you have this awesome little wire guard to hide your wires so that does not happen. You're going to see a feature here in just a second that's never been seen on any Dual-Lite product before. But first, you look at this sign and you ask yourself, what on the market looks as good as the Curvista? Generally speaking, exit signs are boring boxes. They don't really have much style to them. And unfortunately, in this day and age, everybody goes to the bargain basement generic. This has form, function, and style, which I really enjoy. And I'm glad, of course, I already have the Curvista open for our next step of looking inside the sign. But I'm glad that Dual-Lite puts its name on its products, because generally, when you see the Dual-Lite name on a product, it's a product worth having. Sadly, as I mentioned earlier, when I was joking around about Sure Lights and Lithonia, some of the products that they've released over the past few years have just not been all that great. Dual-Lite seems to have hit after hit. I have never had a Dual-Lite product in my hand that failed prematurely or caused me any problems. And truthfully, that's an excellent record. So props to their team for putting the engineering and the quality behind their products. And we move over here. What is this? Well, this is a Spectron label. But it's not just any Spectron label. Because if you look right there, this is the very first sign in Dual-Lite history to have a laser test feature. It's the same Spectron you know and love, but this is all new circuitry, and as part of that circuitry, you get laser test functionality. If this thing's mounted 15 feet up in the air, you don't have to go grab a ladder anymore. Hopefully, this is not the last time we see this feature, because I don't know about you, but I'm kind of nerdy about my electronics, and a laser test feature is right up my alley. And like I said, with this being a new sign, you can obviously expect to open it up and find even more cool stuff. And we mentioned the circuitry, and what you see here really is a lot different than what you would normally see on the inside of a Dual-Lite exit sign. Because for this circuitry, Dual-Lite has designed these really awesome light diffusers. And what they do is they make sure that the face of the sign has even light distribution. And that's really important to me, and it should be important to you if you're an exit sign fan, a specifier, a contractor, or even a building inspector or a fire marshal. Because what do exit signs do? They help occupants get out of a building safely. If signs aren't evenly illuminated, if they're obscured by smoke, it's going to be really difficult to get people out of a building in an orderly and safe fashion. The first thing I wanted to do is give you an idea of how this light distribution diffuser works with the sign open. And you can tell, it might not look like it, but even with this sign open, these diffusers work really well to spread light. And you can see that on the back plate of the sign itself. And when we close the face of the sign, we can see across all the letter forms that it's just evenly illuminated as ever. And if we look at the indicator light, we can see by our Spectron indication that the sign is functioning normally as it should be. That is, if you've plugged in your battery. And you should always remember to make sure that if your sign has a battery backup, that it is in fact plugged in and ready to go. We will hit the button and engage our self-attest. And at the end of this test, the sign should go right back to green and function just fine. And right on cue, we are back to green and the sign is functioning normally. Well guys, that is all I have for you today. I want to thank you all for watching, and again, I want to thank the awesome team at Dual-Lite and Current Lighting for sending this along to me. I have in my possession right here in front of you one of the very first Curvista exit signs ever produced by Dual-Lite. And I'm telling you right now, it is a winner of a product. And I hope to see it have a very long life with a lot of use. So go out, talk to your Dual-Lite representative if you need more information about this sign, and get it up on your wall today. And if you have a constructive comment, please feel free to leave it below. This is CompDude512 signing off. Thank you for watching. It is always a pleasure to have you here with me.